Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive. You know those times when you really want to get to the bottom of something?
But you don't want to slog through pages and pages of dense reports or.
Yeah, exactly. Like you want the knowledge,
You
but
want it delivered in a fun
in a
and
fun way,
yeah,
approachable way.
yeah, approachable. Exactly. That's what we do
That's
here.
what we aim for.
And today we're going to be taking a really, really fascinating journey.
Buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up. A century-long exploration into the history of Olympus Medical and its truly profound impact, I think, on healthcare innovation as we know it today.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about endoscopy, you think about minimally invasive surgery. Olympus is right there.
Absolutely.
And to guide us on this deep dive, we've got some really rich material. We're looking at excerpts detailing the history of Olympus Medical itself.
So this is straight from the source.
Straight from the source.
Wow.
And it's just a remarkable story of how this company not only adapted to the changing landscape of medicine, but how they fundamentally shaped the field. So that's what we're going to be looking at.
Yeah, we're going to unpack some of the key moments for you.
Exactly. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, and you kind of have to now that you're listening, is to understand how a Japanese company starting with this, ambition to create quality microscopes, right?
Humble beginnings.
Humble beginnings evolved into this global leader in medical technology, especially, as we said, in those realms of endoscopy and minimally invasive surgery. So,
You ready?
yeah, prepare yourself for, I think, some surprising twists and turns in the story.
Absolutely. And a lot of those satisfying aha moments.
Oh, yeah, tons of those.
Yeah.
Okay, so to really appreciate this journey, we've got to go back to the very beginning.
All the way back.
All the way back.
So picture this. It's post-World War I Japan. And we've got this individual, a really driven individual, Takeshi Yamashita.
Oh, I love these names already.
Yeah.
Takeshi Yamashita.
And he felt very strongly that, for Japan to thrive, it needed its own high-quality industries.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't be reliant on other nations.
Yeah, makes sense. Coming out of World War I, there's this big push to reestablish yourself.
Absolutely. And at the time, essential tools for science and medicine, we're talking about things like microscopes, right? These were almost entirely imported from Europe.
So they didn't have that capacity at home yet to build these really important tools.
Not yet.
Yeah.
But Yamashita was going to change that. And I think what's important to note here is that he wasn't just aiming to copy what the Europeans were doing.
Oh, interesting.
The sources really emphasize his determination to create truly original products.
Oh, that's bold.
That's a bold vision from the get-go.
Yeah, especially for a country that's kind of trying to find its footing again.
Absolutely. And he didn't waste any time. Just a year after founding Takachiho Manufacturing Co., Ltd., in 1919, which would later become Olympus.
All right.
They produced the Asahi microscope in 1920.
That's quick.
Really quick turnaround. And this wasn't just about, okay, we can make it locally now. This really laid the foundation for a culture of independent technological advancement, which would come to define Olympus.
Oh, that's interesting. So it wasn't just about replicating. It was about building on it, doing something new.
Absolutely. And think about this. This was Japan's first domestically manufactured microscope.
Wow.
I mean, talk about a source of national pride.
I bet, yeah.
This put them on the map.
Yeah, for sure. You can just imagine the impact for researchers, doctors. Suddenly they have this high-quality tool that's made at home, and it's not reliant on, getting something shipped from across the world.
Exactly. And it also showcased Japanese engineering prowess to the world.
Right. Hey, we can do this too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a one-hit wonder either. They quickly expanded, developing more advanced microscopes, and they even ventured into photographic lenses with their Zuiko brand.
Oh, Zuiko. I've heard that.
Yeah, you recognize that?
Yeah.
Which eventually led to their first camera, the Semi-Olympus, in 1936. So you can already see that early diversification happening.
Wow. That's really interesting that they kind of branched out so quickly. And that kind of makes me think about, companies today that start with one thing and then kind of
become these big conglomerates.
Exactly. Yeah, and it makes you wonder, what was driving that expansion? Was it purely, business opportunity, or was there something more to it?
Well, I think what's fascinating is that even with that expansion into consumer products, the cameras, the core mission of serving science and medicine remains central for them.
Oh, so they didn't lose sight of that initial goal?
Not at all. There's this booklet that Yamashita wrote in 1932 called Kusetsu 13 Nen, and it really reflects on those early years.
Like a memoir almost.
Yeah, kind of like a company memoir, the struggles, the breakthroughs, and it highlights their early ethos. This dedication to craftsmanship, a drive for innovation, but also a deep sense of contributing to society.
So they really had that social impact in mind from the start.
It seems that way, and that really foreshadows their later philosophy of being true to life, this idea of making lives healthier and safer.
Yeah, it's interesting to see those values kind of embedded right from the beginning. And so by 1949, the company officially became Olympus Optical Co., Ltd.
That's right. And as Japan was recovering from World War II, a really critical medical need emerged.
Okay.
Diagnosing and treating stomach cancer, it was a major cause of death at the time.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and doctors desperately needed a way to see inside the stomach, and this urgent need really intersected with Olympus's expertise in optics.
It's like the perfect storm in a way.
Yeah, a sort of serendipitous convergence.
Okay.
And that brings us to, I think, a truly revolutionary idea, the gastro camera.
The gastro camera.
So surgeons at the University of Tokyo Hospital had this very bold concept. Could they photograph the inside of the stomach?
Wow, I mean, that sounds almost like science fiction for the late 1940s.
It really does, and it was a massive challenge.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to create a device small enough to be swallowed.
Or inserted.
Yeah. Yet containing a lens, a light source, a way to capture an image on film,
Yeah.
all with the very limited technology of the time.
Yeah, you're not just dealing with digital sensors and things like that.
No, not at all. The sources even mentioned the difficulty of just finding suitable film that was small enough and sensitive enough to work in those conditions.
Wow, so many hurdles to overcome.
So many hurdles. And they took on this challenge in secrecy, led by this incredibly ingenious engineer, Tatsujiro Kirschner.
Okay, another great name.
I know, right?
Tatsujiro Kirschner.
And the early prototypes sound incredibly basic.
Yeah.
There was no live view, just a tiny flashbulb.
Just a flash.
And the doctors would actually have to look at the patient's abdomen
What?
for a faint glow to see if the flash had gone off.
That's amazing.
It's like about low-tech brilliance, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like going back to the very basics of photography.
Absolutely. And it's a real testament to their dedication. They weren't deterred by these challenges. They kept pushing forward. And in 1950, they unveiled the GT1, the world's first practical gastro camera.
Okay, the GT1.
The GT1.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being at that presentation at the Japan Surgical Association? The ability to visually examine the living stomach without surgery for the first time?
Yeah, it must have blown everyone's minds.
It had to have been astounding. And the core insight here, I think, was this radical idea of directly visualizing internal organs without invasive surgery.
That's a complete paradigm shift in diagnostics.
It really is. And you can imagine the immediate impact, especially for patients in Japan, where stomach cancer was such a concern.
Absolutely. It allows for earlier detection and hopefully better outcomes.
Exactly. And we even get a firsthand account from one of the early users, Dr. Shigeru Kanai. He said it allowed them to finally see what they had only guessed at before.
Wow, that's powerful.
And what's amazing is how quickly they continued to refine the technology throughout the 1950s, leading to models like the GT3 with sharper photos. But the limitation of still images was pretty clear.
Right, because you get one shot and that's it.
Exactly. And the next logical step was real-time viewing. And that's where fiber optics comes in.
Fiber optics. Okay, so we're talking about those flexible bundles of glass fibers that can transmit light and images.
Right. And this was a game changer for the medical field.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, suddenly you can see inside the body as it's happening.
Exactly. And Olympus was quick to see the potential for endoscopy. The early 1960s saw them experimenting, even combining fiber optics with those early gastro cameras.
So they're already on top of this new technology.
Yeah, they're really at the forefront. And it's important to note, this wasn't happening in isolation. A doctor in the U.S., Dr. Basil Hershowitz, was also working on this. He developed the first fiber optic gastroscope around the same time.
So there's this parallel innovation happening.
Absolutely. But Olympus, with their camera expertise, really jumped into the field. And by the mid-60s, they released their first fully flexible fiber gastroscope.
Okay, so now doctors can actually navigate inside the stomach in real time.
In real time, and even take biopsies.
Wow, the era of modern endoscopy had truly begun.
It really had. And their innovation didn't stop there in 1966 in collaboration with Dr. Shigeru Ikeda.
Okay.
They developed the world's first flexible fiber optic bronchoscope.
Wow, so now we're talking about looking inside the lungs.
Exactly, revolutionizing lung examinations.
That must have been a huge breakthrough for pulmonology.
Oh, absolutely. Suddenly, doctors could visualize the bronchial passages without major surgery. And that device that they built with Dr. Ikeda on August 13, 1966.
Wow, specific date?
I know it's considered the prototype for all modern bronchoscopes.
That's incredible. So from looking at the stomach, now they're looking at the lungs. What came next?
Well, they had mastered the airways. Now, the logical next frontier for this flexible endoscopic technology was the lower digestive system.
Okay, so the colon.
The colon, exactly. And this is where two really pioneering doctors come in, Dr. William Wolfe and Dr. Hiromi Shinya.
Okay.
They were working in New York and collaborating with Olympus to develop the flexible colonoscope.
So this is like the holy grail of endoscopy, being able to see the entire colon.
It really was,
Ah.
and they described it as a logical extension of the gastroscope. You know, if you can go down into the stomach, why not keep going?
Yeah, it makes sense.
And they performed some of the very first total colonoscopies around June 1969 using Olympus prototypes.
1969, wow, that's still relatively early in the development of this technology.
It is, but they weren't content with just seeing, they wanted to treat.
Okay.
And this is where Dr. Shinya's invention of the wire loop snare comes in.
The wire loop snare. Oh,
It was a way to remove polyps during the colonoscopy itself.
wow, so no more need for a second surgery.
Exactly, a huge step forward for patients. And Olympus took that idea and built it into their colonoscopy toolkit.
Smart move.
And that demonstration of endoscopic polypectomy around 1971 was a game changer for patient care.
Absolutely. I mean, it's less invasive, it's more efficient, it's better for everyone.
And then in 1973, Wolfe and Shinya published their landmark findings in the New England Journal of Medicine.
Okay, the big leagues.
The big leagues, they linked those polyps to colon cancer and highlighted the preventative power of endoscopic removal.
So suddenly colonoscopy isn't just about diagnosis, it's about prevention too.
Exactly. It completely shifted the paradigm in gastrointestinal medicine.
Diagnosis and treatment through an endoscope, that's incredible.
And by this point, the early 1970s, Olympus had firmly established itself as a world leader in flexible endoscopy across multiple specialties.
Wow. So they've really come a long way from those early microscopes.
They really have. And what's fascinating is the emphasis and the sources on their close partnerships with physicians.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just engineers working in a vacuum.
Not at all. There's this constant feedback loop of innovation where doctors' needs directly shape the development of new tools.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. You want the people who are actually using the tools to have a say in how they're designed.
Absolutely. There's this great quote from Susumu Yamaguchi. He says, "We consider the doctor part of our development team. Their problems become our problems to solve."
I love that it really encapsulates that collaborative spirit.
And on the business side, the medical division was really taking off, becoming a distinct and crucial part of Olympus.
So it's not just a side project anymore.
No, it's a core part of their business.
Mm-hmm.
And they also started expanding internationally, including a key acquisition of KeyMed in Europe.
KeyMed, okay.
Between 1979 and 1987, they brought them into the fold.
So that gives them a much bigger global footprint.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about sales and distribution. KeyMed brought their own engineering talent and expertise to the table.
So they're really tapping into a global network of innovation.
Exactly. And they also recognize the importance of rigid endoscopes for surgical applications.
Okay, so not just the flexible ones.
Right. The rigid ones have their own uses, and this led to their partnership and eventual acquisition of the German company Winter and EB.
Winter and I. Okay, another big name in endoscopy.
Yes, so while flexible endoscopy was revolutionizing diagnosis, surgical endoscopy with rigid scopes was also advancing.
So they're covering all the bases.
Yeah, that partnership with Winter and Ibe in 1975 was a smart move. It gave them access to laparoscopes and other rigid scopes.
So they're really becoming a one-stop shop for all things endoscopy.
And then acquiring Winter and Ibe in 1979, establishing Olympus Winter and Ibe in Hamburg, really solidified their position in surgical endoscopy.
So they're a major player in both flexible and rigid endoscopy now.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is how they inherited technologies like the resectoscope from Winter and Ibe,
The resectoscope. Oh,
which is
wow.
used in urological surgery. So they're expanding their reach into new specialties.
So it's not just about the gut anymore.
Not at all. By the early 1980s, Olympus could truly call itself a comprehensive endoscopy company,
Wow, that's quite an evolution.
offering both flexible and rigid scopes across a wide range of medical specialties.
And their global expansion continued, right?
Oh, yeah. They opened a service center in San Jose in 1979, unified their U.S. operations as Olympus Corporation of America in 1983, and even established an office in Beijing by 1987.
Wow, so they're really thinking long-term about the global market.
Absolutely. And those global connections weren't just about sales and distribution. You know, they acquired subsidiaries like KeyMed and Winter and Ibe, brought their own R&D expertise.
So it's like this cross-pollination of ideas happening.
Exactly. They contributed to medical electronics, rod lens systems for sharper images, and even fiber optic illumination in urology scopes.
So everyone's learning from each other and pushing the technology forward.
Yeah, it's a really great example of how collaboration can drive innovation. But Even with all these advancements in visualization, fiber optic endoscopy had a key limitation.
Okay, what's that?
Only one person could view the image
Well,
directly.
you're looking through the eyepiece.
Exactly.
But
And the video era was on the horizon,
yeah.
promising to change everything.
Oh, yeah, video that changes everything.
Because now imagine you can display endoscope images on a monitor for everyone to see.
Huge for teaching, for training, for collaborative surgery.
Absolutely. And as CCD sensors became small enough in the early 1980s, Olympus jumped headfirst into developing a video endoscope system.
Okay, so these CCD sensors are what allow the image to be captured and displayed digitally, right?
Exactly. These tiny sensors capture the light coming through the endoscope and convert it into an electronic signal.
Okay.
And Olympus succeeded spectacularly. They introduced the first complete endoscopic video information system, or EVIS, in 1985.
EVIS. Okay, that's a big one.
It was a massive leap forward for the medical community.
I bet suddenly entire surgical teams could view the procedure live.
It revolutionized how endoscopy was performed and taught, and it had a direct impact on the quality of care.
It's like going from watching a black and white TV to a high-definition screen.
There's a great analogy from Dr. Haruo Inoue. He said it was like switching from radio to television.
A perfect analogy.
And the EVIS brand really became synonymous with endoscopy equipment.
Wow, so they're like the Kleenex of endoscopy.
Exactly. And they continue to improve the technology with systems like EVHAS 100 and 200, constantly enhancing resolution and ergonomics for the doctors using them.
So they're not just resting on their laurels.
Not at all. They're always pushing forward, and while other companies were also developing video endoscopes, Olympus really became the leader.
How so?
Well, they claim to have developed the world's first practical video endoscope system, and later the first HD video endoscopy system with the EVIS Lucera Extra in 2002.
Wow, HD. That's a big jump in image clarity.
Yeah, think about the difference between standard and high-definition television. It's a huge improvement for detecting smaller lesions.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just the scopes themselves. They developed a whole ecosystem around them.
Right. Better light sources, video recorders, monitor systems. They integrated these technologies into full suites for endoscopic surgery.
So it's a complete package.
A complete package exemplified by the Endo-LPHA integrated operating room concept in 1992.
So they're thinking about the entire surgical environment.
Absolutely. And this coincided perfectly with the boom in minimally invasive surgery, or MIS, in the late 80s and early 90s.
Right, MIS, where procedures are performed through small incisions.
Exactly, using specialized instruments and visualization tools. And Olympus, with its video technology and prior acquisitions, was in a prime position to capitalize on this trend.
Yeah, they had all the pieces in place.
They did. And the Visera integrated video system for surgical endoscopy, launched in 2002, became that universal platform for various MIS procedures.
Okay, so Visera is like the operating system for minimally invasive surgery.
You could say that, and Visera kept evolving. It started supporting 3D imaging and infrared imaging, further enhancing surgical capabilities.
Wow, so they're always pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Absolutely. And by the 2010s, Olympus had achieved a dominant market share in endoscopy, reportedly around 70% in GI endoscopes.
70%? Wow, that's huge.
It speaks volumes about the trust and reliability they had built within the medical community.
Yeah, you don't get to that level of market share without a really strong reputation.
And it wasn't just about technology. The sources highlight trust, reliability, and their extensive service network as key factors in that dominance.
It's like the whole package.
And they continue to invest heavily in R&D, building a massive patent portfolio, constantly innovating.
So they're not just sitting back and counting their money.
Not at all. One key innovation from the 2000s was narrowband imaging, or NBI.
NBI, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's a really cool technology that uses special filters that make the tiny blood vessels just under the surface of tissues light up more clearly. So it helps doctors spot early signs of disease that might otherwise be missed during an endoscopy.
Wow, so it's like a superpower for doctors.
It really enhances their ability to see those subtle changes. And this patented optical filter technology uses specific wavelengths of light to enhance visualization of mucosal vascular patterns, directly improving diagnostic accuracy.
That's amazing. So they're not just improving the image quality, they're actually making it easier to detect disease.
Exactly. And NBI became a game changer for early cancer detection. And its use expanded beyond GI endoscopy to bronchoscopy and ENT scopes.
So it's a versatile technology with a wide range of applications.
Absolutely. And Olympus continued to grow through strategic acquisitions like the Gyrus Group in 2008,
Gyrus, okay.
which significantly expanded their reach into surgical energy devices and urology.
So they're branching out again?
Yeah, they're building on their core strengths, and that acquisition of Gyrus was huge. It gave them those advanced bipolar surgical instruments and a stronger presence in urology and ENT.
So they're becoming even more of a comprehensive provider.
Exactly. And integrating Gyrus as Olympus Surgical Technologies America in 2012 showed their commitment to these new areas.
Okay.
They even diversified into therapeutic pulmonary devices with the acquisition of Spiration Inc. in 2010 and their spiration valve for emphysema treatment.
So they're moving beyond just diagnostic tools into actual treatments.
Right, offering less invasive options for patients with lung conditions.
By this point, Olympus had truly become a company that could address patient needs across the spectrum of minimally invasive care, from diagnosis to therapy in many different fields.
It's really remarkable how far they'd come from just making microscopes.
Yeah, it's an incredible journey of growth and innovation, but the 2010s brought a significant challenge that impacted the company's reputation.
The 2011 accounting scandal,
Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
a major corporate crisis involving massive financial losses and cover-ups.
It was a huge blow to their image and leadership.
Absolutely. The resignations, the prosecution, the stock plunge. It was a tumultuous time for the organization.
Hard to imagine how they would recover from something like that.
What's remarkable, though, is the resilience of the medical division during all of this.
Really? So the scandal didn't affect the quality of their products?
Not really. The medical community largely continued to support Olympus Medical, recognizing the value and necessity of their products for patient care.
So there was a clear distinction between the corporate issues and the actual medical technology.
Exactly. And that's a real testament to the trust they had built over decades within the medical profession.
Yeah, it speaks to the quality of their products and the relationships they had fostered.
And in response to the scandal, Olympus underwent a major transformation program.
Okay, so they took steps to address the issues.
Absolutely. New leadership came in like Hiroyuki Sasa in 2012, bringing increased transparency and outside directors.
So a real effort to clean up their act.
Yeah, the Transform Olympus program marked a renewed focus on becoming a dedicated global medtech company.
So they doubled down on their commitment to healthcare.
Exactly. And President and CEO Yasuo Takeuchi's reflections on their 100th anniversary in 2019 emphasized that commitment to a reformed corporate culture, compliance and ethics.
So they're trying to rebuild trust and show that they've learned from their mistakes.
Absolutely. And in a symbolic move in 2020, they made the decision to exit the traditional camera business entirely.
Wow. So after 84 years of making cameras, they're saying goodbye.
Yeah, it showed a real dedication to their future in medtech.
And a commitment to healthcare being their sole focus.
Exactly. And they further solidified this by spinning off their scientific microscope division as Evident Corporation in 2022.
So they're really streamlining their operations and focusing on what they do best.
Absolutely. And their leadership also evolved with the appointment of more non-Japanese executives and even overseas-based CEOs.
Interesting. So a more global approach to management.
Exactly, signaling a more modern and inclusive approach.
And despite the challenges, their medical mission remained the core focus embodied in their slogan, "Your vision, our future."
Emphasizing their partnership with the medical community.
It's a powerful message.
And that brings us to the present day. The 2020s, and beyond the landscape of medical technology is constantly evolving with digital computing, AI, and single-use devices.
Yeah, we're in a really exciting time for healthcare innovation.
And Olympus is right there at the forefront of these changes.
Give us some examples.
Well, they were early adopters of 4K Ultra HD imaging in surgical endoscopy through their joint venture with Sony in 2015.
Wow, 4K, that's incredible resolution.
Yeah, the benefits for surgical precision are immense.
And they're heavily invested in AI, right?
Oh, yeah. Their AI platform EndoAid, launched in the EDIS X1 system in 2020, is helping doctors detect suspicious lesions during procedures.
So AI is like a second set of eyes for the doctor.
Exactly. And the acquisition of Odin Vision in 2023 further strengthens their AI capabilities in endoscopy.
So they're really betting big on AI.
Absolutely. And another critical area they're addressing is patient safety and infection prevention.
Yeah, that's paramount in healthcare.
Absolutely. They're innovating in endoscope reprocessing and even entered the single-use endoscope market with their H-cystoscope bronchoscopes in 2021.
Single-use endoscopes, that's a big shift.
It is. It shows their willingness to adapt to evolving clinical needs and address concerns about infection risks.
even if it means disrupting their traditional business model.
Exactly. And they're also continuing to advance therapeutic innovations like endoscopic ultrasound for deeper imaging and biopsies,
Okay.
and integrating laser and electrosurgical functions for treatments like endoscopic submucosal dissection.
So they're constantly expanding their toolkit for minimally invasive procedures.
Absolutely. And their global influence is undeniable. In many parts of the world, Olympus is practically synonymous with endoscope.
Yeah, that's a testament to their impact.
They're involved in training programs and supporting screening initiatives worldwide.
So they're not just selling products, they're helping to build capacity in healthcare systems around the world.
Exactly. It's estimated that millions of colonoscopies are performed annually using Olympus scopes.
Millions. That's mind-boggling.
It highlights their role in preventative care for countless individuals.
Absolutely. And their focus on socially impactful innovation and addressing unmet medical needs continues to drive them forward.
They're even exploring robotics, taking a stake in metaneering for robotic endoscope holders.
So the future of endoscopy could be even more amazing than what we have today.
Absolutely. The ongoing exploration of robotic control of endoscopes and the development of smart endoscopes with integrated AI.
It's like something out of science fiction.
And their strong financial investment in R&D and their venture fund for medtech startups signal a clear commitment to future innovation.
So they're not slowing down anytime soon.
Not at all. It all comes back to that enduring philosophy, enabling humans to see the unseen, ultimately for the benefit of patients.
It's been an incredible journey for Olympus Medical, from a humble microscope maker to a global medtech leader.
A century of innovation driven by a clear purpose.
Their ability to adapt through challenges is truly remarkable.
And that unwavering focus on improving patient lives is at the heart of everything they do.
So as we reflect on this journey, I think the question for all of us is, what's next?
What breakthroughs in imaging and intervention might we anticipate in the next era of medical technology?
And how will these further redefine our understanding and treatment of disease?
It's a question that leaves us pondering the possibilities for the future of healthcare.
Absolutely. And maybe that's a good place to leave it for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the history of Olympus Medical.
Until next time.
Bye, everyone.